welcome to everybody. I appreciate everybody being with us again today. It's great to have you back. We're doing our next series of webinars hosted by the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers. Our webinars over the next 3 days, which is today, tomorrow, and Thursday, and then Sunday, sorry, tomorrow's Thursday, and then Sunday morning, all at 11 o'clock Dubai time. We're all titled Beyond COVID-19. We are focusing on the responsibilities of what retailers and shopping center owners must do when getting ready to reopen in the coming days, weeks, and months. Our experts with us today focus on the new role of the shopping centers and retailers, which is a discussion on the liability, the obligation, the burden, the authority, the duty, trust to our customers, and providing checklists and knowledge to make our lives easier. So the title is Beyond COVID-19 Safety. The Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers represents over 1,000 retailers, 875 shopping centers, and over 1,000 engaged members, which has been with you. We've been with you for the last 26 years. Our role is to help you to facilitate your business, to do it safely now, and to assist you into raising your personal and professional profiles locally, regionally, and globally. As you know, our funding is generated in the past from networking events, certificate education programs, and conferencing. As you also know, we're unable to host these events as we have in the past, and our funding has evaporated, as many of your companies have as well. We continue to represent the retail and shopping center industry, and we look forward to serving you over the next 25 years. We're providing our webinars free of charge. However, if you want to contribute to our organization for 100 dirhams, we will provide you with a certificate of completion for our awareness programs for these 3 webinars. All we're looking for is to have people behind us and support us. We've also received the generous support of members offering to provide financial support to our team to keep us going, which we've been thrilled about. And our team thanks those businesses which have really offered us your financial support, so thank you for that. We also thank the Dubai Association Center, which has also provided generous support for our members and team to help us spread our words of support and encouragement to the retail industry from the MENA region to Western, Central, and also Eastern Asia. So it's been great. Thank you for your support, Dubai Association Center. For those in the retail industry who have lost their jobs, we are offering a free 1-year membership to assist those in need of our help to get back up and running successfully, to become back employed in the industry. So we're trying to reach out to you. We're happy to have you as a member at no charge while we get you back on your feet. Our team is here for you. You just need to reach out to us in many of our platforms. We have email, we have LinkedIn, other social media platforms, our webinars, podcasts, our video channels, and of course, the old phone. Come and get a hold of us on the phone anytime you want. Let me now introduce our experts who have joined us today and help us understand the best way forward and for our well-being and to be at the forefront of our business in the retailer and the shopping center business. We have with us today Phil MacArthur, and Phil and I have been friends for decades and decades, and he's been in the retail industry for many decades as well, and in the region since the mid-1990s. Phil is a founder and the chairman of his business, MacArthur Retail Development Specialists. Phil has also been a member of the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers for 26 years. With experience in running, developing, operating, leasing, managing, designing shopping centers in the region, including Dira City Center, Dubai Festival City, Mall of Qatar, and countless other shopping centers around the world, Phil has touched the lives and has supported many, many retail professionals globally, and I would say I'm one of them, and thanks, Phil, for that. And thank you, Phil, for being with us today. We also are blessed today to have Mohammed Alawi, and Mohammed joins us from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia, and thank you, Mohammed, for being here. Mohammed is the chairman of the board of Sahat Property Management. Mohammed's also been a member of the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers for decades. He's been with us as a president of the board of the directors and many other various roles in our organization. Mohammed is what I would say the leader in the retail industry in Saudi. He's also a past CEO of the Red Sea Mall, and in his years of running that business for SEDCO, Mohammed won awards from SEDCO for his roles in running and succeeding in running that business. So thank you again, Mohammed, for joining us today. Now, I'm going to start today's webinar by showing you a tweet that came out from the Abu Dhabi government. And I think it's important for us all to see it because it brings to the scale of what we're facing. So maybe I could have our team, Kay, I think you're running this, please run this video and bear with us for a couple of minutes. It's 2 minutes. Listen to it because it's very exciting. So thanks very much. I think that gives you an idea about the scale of what we're talking about. So it's not a small thing. And when you include all of these shopping centers that we represent in the region, there's 875 of them. And that's just the larger ones who are the members. There's all kinds of smaller ones too. So Phil, let me let you take over from here and maybe talk about the safety first aspects that you're going to be speaking of. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, David, for the kind introduction and for the idea to put these webinars together. It's great to see close to 300 people have tuned in and are here to learn more about the challenges ahead. It's nice to see so many people on the chat line sharing messages, and it makes me feel happy to see so many names of people I've worked with or students of mine through the earlier MECSC schools. So I'd like to thank you all for attending today. And as David mentioned, we're going to cover 3 main topics, but leave plenty of time for questions and answers. So really, the impact of the COVID-19 virus and the resulting lockdowns have hit our world hard. And we're all searching for advice and ideas on how to return to business once the lockdowns end or get modified. And how will we operate in the future? These are overwhelming times, and we're here to give you some guidance as to what we need to do to be planning and then how to execute our plan in our properties and in our shops. The MECSR is here to help. We don't have all the answers, but we're here and we're committed to learn more every day from our connections around the globe. And we'd like everybody in this webinar to also share information. And I'll talk more about that in a few moments. And before I start the formal part of my presentation, I'd like to thank a gentleman named Magnus Roxner of the Sweden-based Safe Shopping Centers. That's Safe Shopping Centers. They're a shopping center advisory and consultancy based in Sweden. And they made a publication called Beyond COVID-19, Reopening Your Shopping Center. And this document is made available on the MECSR website. And also my friend Mohammed Alawi has also shared a similar document that was prepared by his technical team at Sahat, and it's in Arabic. So both documents will be available. Now, David asked me for the top 10 must-dos for every organization. And here we go. And I wish it could be fun like David Letterman, but let's get serious because we have a lot of things to talk about today. Number one, we all must take a leadership role and accept the responsibilities that go with it. There's nobody else that's going to take over in your property. Number two, don't panic because that's not going to help in any way. Number three, we've got to get organized. And I'll go through the areas you need to think about. But in Marcus's document, it'll help walk you through these major areas. But essentially, I'm saying you've got to make a plan, and then you've got to make many micro plans. Every department in your organization will need guidance, leadership, and a consistency in the message that's being communicated. You think about it, from your operating staff, your maintenance people, your cleaning staff, they're on the front lines. You're going to have a new sanitation regime, and you're going to have special people dedicated for that activity. Your security and PR teams are going to be challenged on how to deal with customer interface in this new world. Your building system technicians need to get the buildings ready and able to handle the reopening. Of course, we've never had to be more connected with our government health authorities. And it's very important that you are reaching out to them and finding out their recommendations for reopening. Of course, also coordination with the police is extremely important. Our retailers, our restaurateurs, our entertainment providers, they're the lifeblood of our properties. And you need to have meaningful discussions with those people. And your leasing team can be very helpful in understanding the challenges that the retailers are having today. Your finance teams, your legal teams, your administration teams, the backbone of the commercial side of the business have many challenges ahead as we deal with the commercial issues that come out of this pandemic. Your marketing people will need to up their game. They'll need to communicate at many levels and make the customers feel that they are safe or feel safe coming back to your properties. And if you're lucky to have construction and development people, they may look at ways to make your shopping centers more easily managing social distancing practices. We recommend that you create a crisis management team with the key stakeholders. And that would include most of the management leaders of the disciplines I just went through. The crisis management team, and you can look online to get advice on crisis management, and there are many consultancies that offer crisis management, but you can start the framework yourself. You should be meeting often. Does that mean every day? It may mean 3 times a day because the information is changing rapidly. You're going to need to be flexible. So decisions you made on information yesterday may have to be modified based on the information you get today. The crisis management team has got to be a strong connection. There can be no dissension. When you leave the room, the ideas have to move forward. And you have to have consistent communication with the team, the retailers, and the media. Number 6, let's seek some outside advice and direction. Like I said, crisis management. But also communicate with your peers. Talk to the other shopping center managers. Talk to the other owners of shopping centers. What are they doing to prepare? And get the latest information. Now, number 7 is something we need to think about very carefully because we're going to have an entirely new relationship with our customer. Before we provided the parking, we provided the walkways to get to the shops. But today, when we reopen, we're going to be the first line of defense on preventing the spread of the virus. malls will need to up their game significantly because we need to have higher standards, and I'll come to that in a minute. In that communication strategy I talked about, probably the most important thing is to be professional and consistent with your staff, with your retailers and their staff who come to your property. You have to give special attention to your anchor tenants because of the commercial relationship and the power that they bring traffic to your centers. You have to have a strategy on what you want to communicate to the media and also how you're going to engage with your customers. Number 9, you're going to need to seek a list of experts in health, sanitation, and methodologies that you're going to need to use to keep your properties at the highest level possible. So let's go through a few more. The next question was, what kind of standards do we need to have to prevent COVID-19, and what kind of sanitation regimes do we need? And
excuse me, Phil.
yeah.
You have 2 more minutes to wrap up your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
I may need 3. Okay. So I'll just skip along here, but obviously we're not sanitation experts. You need to go to your local health authority. I'm sure they're publishing guidelines. You need to get those guidelines. There's also information available online. Like David said, the government of Singapore has published excellent guidelines, and we saw the great video from the Abu Dhabi government. We're going to be in an era of testing and sensors that we're not familiar with, and there's going to be new technology arriving, so we're going to need to become up to date with that. We know, like I mentioned earlier, about preparing our properties. I've been in the business for a long time, almost 40 years, and in this part of the world since 1996. I've traveled to 25 different countries. I've seen shopping malls all over the region. And to be honest, only a few shopping centers meet my expectations in terms of cleanliness and standards. So when we think about the amenities that people are using in our properties, the prayer rooms, the ablution rooms, the restrooms, the parenting rooms, all the places of customer interface need to be immaculate and sanitized. So it's time to be looking at those even during closing times. Social distancing, that's going to be a challenge for us on how we're going to manage social distancing, how our staff is going to deal with it. Are we going to hand out masks and gloves? But we definitely need to have signage. We need to have stickers on the floor, and we need to provide training for our staff. So like I said earlier, our staff is going to be challenged with a lot of new responsibilities. So let's just move along, and I want to just end on 2 areas where we need to think carefully about. Regaining our customers' confidence is not going to be easy because not all customers are going to act the same. Some are going to return with enthusiasm because they're very tired of lockdown and restrictions, and they just want to see people and they want to get back to a new normal. But others are going to be extremely careful. And some customers will refuse to return to your property until they feel it's 100% safe. So you need to focus on what you can do in your properties to get that customer confidence back. And of course, today we have the great advantage of social media and our websites, where I believe our customers will trust you if you give the information you're using, and you're also going to have to ask them for cooperation with social distancing. And by all, by all means, we must have a meaningful, strong communication with our customers. So I skipped over a few areas, but I think the main idea is get organized, make a plan, look for assistance from documents like the one published by Safe Shopping Centers, and move forward starting today. So now I'd like to turn it over to my good friend and colleague, Mohammed Alawi, over in Jeddah. Thanks for your kind attention.
Thank you, David. Good morning. Thank you, Phil and David. Good morning, everybody from Jeddah. Sabah al-Khair, from our lovely city, peaceful city. Every day I open the windows near to the beach, and it's really very peaceful those days. Well, I hope everybody is safe, and I hope your family, your business, and also your friends are all also safe. I have to admit this magnitude of this crisis is not a small, it's a big, but I have also to admit that our leadership in the region, especially in the GCC, especially in Saudi Arabia also, had taken a very good early measurement, and this measurement reduced the effect of the spread of that corona epidemic. I hope this will be going to go soon. That's the hope, and I think it will be easy to do that if all stick to our government regulations and the different authorities. Situation in Saudis are no different from the rest of the GCC. Government take actions early, measurement. Saudis in particular had even one of the early countries had decided to put on hold all the religious activities, Umrah, visitor to the two holy mosques. That time people was really shocked how tough this decision, but I think today has been proven this is something was important to do that. Accordingly, many other obligation orders had been came to be effect, including the curfew, stopping out of activities, minimizing the minute of times people to be out, closing some areas where they think there have to be more investigation for the disease. And I think this has all been put a lot of challenge in our industry. Many shopping malls have been shut down. Some of them are partially shut down because they are open shopping malls, lifestyle, where they have some of their activities like the supermarket and the pharmacies and food are for delivery or backup services. And accordingly, this is put a challenge on our finance, put a challenge in our retailer, put a challenge in our operation, logistics, and that. What happened, the government decided also to prepare, like any government in the regions, what we call it economical packages to boost the economic. One of the most important decisions that to stop layout of the staff, and the government boost the private sector with about 20 billion package Saudi riyals to reduce to stop any layout for the 3 months coming for any staff, and this is what been appreciated by the private sector. A lot of hard activities had been done, but one of the things that strike my point, in the past we never valued what the government has done in terms of the e-government. We all have in the regions an e-government initiative for the few years ago. But today, with this disasters, had proving it's the e-government is more than efficient to solve a lot of issues for the peoples in the regions and their needs. I noticed the retailer also, they keep pushing hard for their from their side for what we call it some packages or the layout of the rent or leasing, giving a discount and all those things. And I think those all challenges had been received by the rest of the peoples. Most of the shopping malls in the Saudi Arabias, like anywhere in the world, had their own crisis teams working hand-to-hand together with their retailer, with service provider for zero utility. They're receiving all the complaints, they're evaluating all the complaints. They're trying their best to work hand-to-hand and to go through all those issues. Some of the semi-government agencies like the Chamber, Jeddah Chamber, Riyadh Chamber, and all of them, they're doing a lot of initiative to educate the people in this time. I personally participate in a series of webinars with Jeddah Chambers for the whole countries to go through all those issues we are discussing today and in the next 2 days also. The most important challenge, I think, for development is now to prepare themselves for the reopening whenever it's been given the green light from the authorities. There is a big hope after we seeing what's happening in Bahrain. There is a partial controlled openings. I'm seeing that in many other countries in the world, and I think sooner or later this is have to be happening, especially the control on the disease from the Ministry of Health and its organization are in a very good, solid way. I saw a lot of example of cooperation between shopping mall and retailer. I could recall 10 or 20 initiatives as example. Unified Properties in Riyadh had asked some of their retailers if they need to use some of their empty stores in what we call it lifestyle open mall, which not been affected totally by the shutdown. They are most welcome. I saw some of the shopping mall participate in giving their transportations for deliveries for their pickup for their tenant. I saw some of them discuss all the way to ease the financial burden for a few months until this event it will be finished. And I think this is to show how usually the relation between the two parties, that shopping mall and retail, are always on the same boat, and they are working hand to hand in good time and tough time like these times. I think the economy of Saudi Arabia, as everybody hearing the report, are still one of the solid in the regions. Actually, the last report of the IMF had been mentioning that the effect of Corona in the Middle East will be less than many countries in the world, and especially in the region and in the GCC and Saudi Arabia. And this is a plus, because there is a lot of initiative had been done by the government to reduce the pressures. And I'll give you an example. Hotel had been affected, but the government leased a lot of hotels in the country for preparations, bringing back almost maybe 100 Saudis who's either locked out or the students soon will be on holidays coming back to the country. This is all going to be used as a quarantine for 2 weeks for each one before they could go to their family and beloved. Many initiatives had been done also for the tourism sectors. Even the people who have visa had been extended, and during this period it will not be counted when they're out from their visas. You will be asking me how is the effect on entertainment and cinema in the market? Yes, it's now locked down, definitely. But maybe when we start partially opening the malls, we'll have different regulation from the authorities by doing social distance and special measurement on the air filtration, all those things. I'm not sure about that, but it's like everywhere. We are learning every day. We're doing all those webinars between us and you and the whole world and within the country, just to exchange idea. I appreciate the initiative had been done by our team in Sahat company, where they prepared a booklet for the procedure and manual for opening and prepare for opening the malls, and it will be shared by the NCC later on, teams to all the attendees. And I think it's a time of we are going to spread the hope. Hope is the only thing we have. Smile and hope, and this is a part of our fun and journey of life. We have good times, tough times, normal times, lazy times, and we have to accept it. This is a test, and for our industry, how to go on to recover, especially how to be working with our stakeholders in the business. Retailer are one. Our customers, we need to engage very well with them this period through all our means of our socials and media, and to keep in touch with them, because also they are a part of our relations in this business. And I hope that this period will be going to be passed very easy in the next few weeks, inshallah. I will not call it even months. And I'm still in a believer these issues in our region at least will be under control in a few weeks. So by this, I would like to end my presentation, and I will leave it to David, and we'll be happy to ask all.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Phil. I appreciate both of your comments and what you've been able to show our people who are listening today. So thank you very much for that. The next topic that I wanted to get into is entitled Retailer Developer Health Check. And I just wanted to make sure that, first of all, the one important thing that I want everybody to understand is to not wait. Don't wait for any longer to make a meaningful dialogue with your shopping center owners or with your retailers, whatever position you're taking. Those dialogues have to happen today. Everybody is expecting you to reach out and do what you can do and just open that communication channel with everyone. And that's all of your retailers. And the best way to do it, in my view, is for you to start by coming to our website where we've posted all of the information. Phil has talked about the shopping center health check and a few other checkpoints that you need to go. Mohammed has talked about some things. The Singapore government has posted something very meaningful. Abu Dhabi government has posted all of these meaningful things. We have them on our website. So if you're looking for a way to approach the retailers or the retailers to approach the shopping center management and team, please start by just downloading something and use that as a conversation opener. Here's what they're doing in Singapore. Here's what they're doing in Dubai. Here's what they're doing in Abu Dhabi. And what you do is you can start with some communication that, in my view, will lead to a meaningful dialogue. So that's the very first thing. Why is it important to have a meaningful dialogue? Well, first of all, because everybody wants to know where they stand. And I don't know if anybody really knows where they stand, but at least if you're having that dialogue, you can open the communication. I don't think anybody really has the answers. No one has all the answers today. But at least if we can come together and start talking about these things, it'll make a difference. I think the other thing is that there are some retailers or divisions or part of either in the shopping center or the retailer group that will need more financial assistance than others. So I think you have to start having your team meetings, as Phil was talking about earlier, with your people to figure out who is going to be your top priority, who's going to approach them, get the checklist going, make sure that all of those different data points, checkpoints are followed through. And that starts with your mall management, and it also follows all the way through the rest of your team. Everybody has a role in this. Everybody has to be engaged. So it's part of that retailer, developer, management health check that you need to go. I think there's an understanding of the retailer's economics in this crisis. And I go back to maybe John Haddon's presentation that he explained that 95% of the revenues had stopped and but the costs had remained. And I think that it's important to everybody understand where they're at in their own role. So in the shopping centers, I think you have your own kinds of issues that you're facing. Make sure that you understand those issues as well. And you're able to share those back. It's just a dialogue that I think has to start and become open. Then we go back to what I call back to basics. And I think that back to basics means that things are going back to a point where before any of this even started to happen. So in the old days, and I'm talking about the old days going back to even before you started leasing your shopping center, that's called back to basics because you were trying to figure out who is going to be the best in your shopping center and who could help you, who couldn't. I think I'd like to also interject here that I'm always fielding calls and we're always taking all kinds of meetings with different people. I had a very interesting meeting yesterday with a group that want to roll out. They say, look, this is a great opportunity for us. We want to roll out into the GCC. They're they belong in shopping centers. I will be happy to share with anybody who's interested and who wants to talk to me about it, but they really want to make sure that this is their opportunity because they see that everybody else will be going out of business. They're wanting to come into the business. Now, my point on this is that there are opportunities for all businesses at this point in time. They may not seem obvious today, but unless you're in the business, unless you're out there every day, like our team and I am out there every day talking to people, you don't uncover these things. You don't uncover these opportunities. And the people who are out looking to expand today also have fairly deep pockets, and they want to make sure that if they are going to expand, they're going to want a very good location, and they're going to want to make sure that when they do open, they're going to be successful. So there are those opportunities out there as well, and I'd be happy to share with anyone if they want to email me or whatever to connect on who that is and how we can move that forward. Lots of opportunity out there. I think how to prepare for the situation when we get back to a more normal role. I think everybody's looking for that, but I don't think you'll uncover that unless you're out there talking to people every day to understand what it is that the opportunity might be. It might be that there are some parts of your shopping center that can be re-established as great places for other reasons that before they may not have been very popular in your shopping center. But with social distancing and the way that the shopping centers and how it's going to operate in the future, these other locations may somehow become a place that is going to become more important for you as a shopping center owner to make sure you have that under control. I think the last thing that I can get to in my little presentation here is to, if you're not in the senior management, or even if you are in the senior management, you need to start getting buy-in. Buy-in means to get people starting to nod their heads saying, yes, that makes sense, let's start to move in that direction. So as a senior management, you're probably going to be looking to your finance people. You're probably going to be looking to your banks. You're going to be looking to whatever it takes to get the wheels on the bus turning again. If you are sort of secondary management that are out there that are supposed to make things work, I think Phil brought it fairly clearly for us all. And that is that there has to be a clear chain of command. There has to be people that have ownership of what they're trying to say and allow their team the operating freedom to make that happen. So once again, this is when there's going to be a lot more, I think, communication coming back and forth that are going to be really important for all shopping center owners and retailers to make sure their chain of command also are very clear all the way through. I think now that summarizes what I wanted to say. I wanted to get out to, we now have 342 people who are on board. I would like to open the floor for questions for Mohammed Alawi, for Phil MacArthur, and myself to answer some of your questions that we have. So thank you so much for being with us this far, and I think we're just getting into it now. So thank you.
Hi,
So,
our first question is from, hold on. Our first question is from Reda Darwish. Reda, are you there?
you just have to take it off mute.
Hold on.
Okay, who else do we have out there who has a question? I'm sure there's a few.
Okay, our next question is coming from Mohammed Galal.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Very long time, and hope we get together safely all together again very soon.
Yes.
I just want to share something that we just started to do in Egypt and in France because of that lockdown and confinement that is really extending beyond May and maybe June. So similar to the real estate companies that used to like have 360 guided tours of their real estate apartment selling, we are starting to film or to photograph the shops 360 degrees to give the clients that experience of going to the mall, which they miss. And we have established an online, very simple online process whereby the client basically tours the shop, that he's used to visit or that she is used to visit. They can select the item they want to have in the shop, and they pay online. And then the salesman in the shop, who is really idle and not doing anything because the shop is closed in most of the cases, they just take the item from the shop, put it in a bag, and just hand delivers it to the client within 4 hours from the request is made. We have started this few days ago in some of our retailer partners, and it's really doing well. We're not saying that they're selling hundreds of transactions per day, but at least it has this connection with the people again. So I think, David, we need your assistance. Phil, your experience, Muhammad also being in Saudi. Let's try to come with innovative ideas to our retailers and shopping centers, to try to promote their sales somehow, and to alleviate the fact that they all will come back and request zero rent, which we cannot give them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed.
All right, so the next question we have is coming from Nathan.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, David. Thank you very much for organizing this. It's been quite a useful session. Thank you for getting this up. My question is very generic. I mean, it can be answered by either yourself or Phil or Mr. Mohammed. Yeah, we all anticipate the lockdown to close sooner, and we want to open our shopping centers. But again, there's an interesting article which I was reading recently in China. I mean, one of the luxury brands, I mean, skewed its sales on one day. It's like phenomenal sales. So do we anticipate that kind of behavior in this region after we open up for business? Or do you see there will be a gradual growth in terms of the sales performance? So I mean, I just want to understand what are your views and experienced people like you guys can advise, like what do we see in this region? Because definitely there is no scope for us to have open centers, because people saying in US there open centers are possibly can come back in a better way. But I mean, given the climatic conditions, we can't afford to have open centers. So what do you see as the growth in terms of the retail performance over the next 6 months?
If
Go
you,
ahead, Phil, or Mohammed.
if you allowed me, David, as a local, from the past experience, and even during the Gulf War and many other crises happened in the past, maybe in the country or on the regions, I think people, they will go back to shopping mall if we show them in the industry the trust in our properties and preparing our property in the right standard and scales. And the exercise we see yesterday about Hermes store in China, the sales went crazy. I am sure that people, they will go to shopping malls, especially we are soon entering the months of Ramadan, and after Ramadan it will be the Eid, and it's like something like the Christmas in our region. But I want to also to touch in one issue. We all talking about shopping mall checklist to reopen and to be ready and all the things. I think retailer also, they need to do their checklist also to be ready to open, because there is also another challenge of the supply chain and logistics and warehousing and all those things. I think as much we are working in preparing our property to reopen partially whenever the authority gives the direction, I think our partner, the retailer also, they need to work hand to hand with the development and with the shopping malls and with the properties managers to be ready also to receive the visitor, because it will be also not good that we're going to do all this social media marketing and things to invite people to show up in our properties, and retailer also will not be ready to with the right goods and the right offer and the right promotions to satisfy the need of our client. That's my point.
I've got a few comments on that. Thanks, VM, for tuning in and for the good question. I don't think any of us really know the answer specifically. And I think it changes from property to property, from city to city, from economy to economy. I've had some time to do the research. I know David's going to address this tomorrow when we talk about Asia. Some reports in Asia are the malls reopened and traffic was around 30%. I did read about Bahrain opening the city center mall and other commercial establishments. And one newspaper article talked about the hordes of people and the challenges of social distancing. So I really think it's going to boil down to, and like Mohammed Galal said, lockdowns could carry on into May and June. So we don't know when, we don't know how many, and we don't know how often our customers are going to come back, but we do know that we need to prepare. And that was really the essence of today's initial discussion.
Certainly. Great. Thanks, Phil. Mohammed's viewpoint. I mean, the preparation of retailers in terms of opening, having seen recently our opening in Bahrain. Yes, as retail groups, everyone is ready to kind of open the shops and start trading. So we are all prepared internally in terms of the checklist, the sanitation stuff, and be it your touch point, customer touch points, cleanliness. So all those things are being addressed on the side note. But yes, it's very critical. Yes, it's going to be a combination of both retailers and developers that has to get this ball moving and see how we can get this better.
Good.
Thanks, Finance.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the next question is from Amit Damani.
Hi, David. How are you?
Hi, Amit. Great to see you again today.
Thank you. I really appreciate all the inputs from all the panelists and participants. I think there is no magical answer like the panelists said. And I feel certainly it's like a rehab kind of program. We don't know how many days lockdown, social distancing, and so on and so forth. According to you, what is a fair win-win going forward relationship between the landlord and retailer, and what kind of a mechanism will be something which will be viable the way forward, which will make life easier for mall owners and retailers? So if you can put some kind of suggestion on that.
Phil, go for it.
Yeah, I've always felt, good morning, Amit, how are you? I've always felt, I've been in the business since '81, and we talk about rents per square foot, per square meter. We then come up with a clever statistic of percentage rent or sales rent or turnover rent. But essentially it boils down to retailers can pay a certain amount of overhead and rent depending on their category and the margins in that category. And if there's a crisis that impacts the sales of a retailer and there's lower sales generated over a period of time, then the consequence is that the landlord can only get a fair share. If the fair share is the old rent and the new sales are half of what the old sales used to be, then it's not fair. So every developer, every mall owner, every bank, every retailer has a different commercial and legal relationship between the parties. Now that legal relationship becomes very convenient when there's disputes, but in this case, this is beyond dispute. This is getting into the essence of, are we partners or are we just commercial relations? And I think the COVID-19 era is basically going to make it a very pointed discussion that no, we need our retailers, we need our F&B operators, we need them to stay with us for a long time, and therefore we're going to have to work with them to find a solution. And that's digging into the balance sheets, that's digging into the income statements, that's digging into, predicting the future. So this is not an easy topic, but there definitely needs to be dialogue and it needs to be realistic.
David?
I agree with David, with Phil in these issues. And I have to admit one thing, that one of the best things going to be happening as the outcome of this crisis is to the both side of the formula, the retailer and developer, that both of them, they need to work with the wisdom together and to survive together. I think this is one of the best lessons we have to get out of it. They cannot survive with us without our property, and we cannot survive without their business as a retailer. And from this lessons, I think wisdom will prevail in coming, as Phil saying, coming to understand what is the fair rent or fair relations between both parties to survive in the coming months. Otherwise, if both went out of this wisdom formula, there will be in deep trouble.
Phil, so if I understand, and thank you for your answer, if I understand, till the normalcy happens, whenever it happens, the formula of turnover rent and no base rent can be workable. So till the normalcy happens, retailers are ready to pay landlords the part of turnover rent to keep themselves going and landlord going. Can this is what is the direction your guidance was?
Yeah, I think we're talking more philosophy than technicality. So okay. I think many developers and owners would be hesitant to say, no, base rent is off and we're just going to percentage rent. But they're going to have to dig into what kinds of operating expenses each retailer can afford if the sales are depressed. And that naturally leads to a discussion of, if I used to do 100 in business and I paid 15 in rent, and now I'm doing 30 in business, I can't afford to pay 15 in rent. So what is going to be the new short-term solution, bridge solution? Maybe there could be some benchmarking put in. Once the sales get back to this level, then the old deal comes on. So I'm just giving common sense advice on how the relationships need to be, not put your head in the sand and ignore it, but face it right on and bring the retailer and the developer together online, talk about the projections, talk about what if, and talk about what kind of rentals could be supported. But to just turn your back and say, no, it's your problem, we have a document, and we'll have our lawyers call you in the morning, that's just not the way we need to operate. Because we also know, I study all over the world, and in my country of Canada, which has a lot of independent retailers that live from, hand to mouth every day, every month, if they're closed for 45 days or 60 days, they just don't have any working capital, and the banks aren't going to come in and support them. So who's really got the relationship? It's the customer and the owner of the property and the retailer. So somehow all of that is interconnected.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Shazad Anwar.
Hello?
Good morning, Shazad. Good morning, Shazad.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much everyone for this wonderful webinar. So I just need to ask a quick question that what sort of marketing communication should we need to flow on our social mediums platform, which will help us in gaining the customer trust one again, because people here are quite scared of going to the areas which are scattered and have some sort of public gathering. So what do you suggest that what sort of communication we should do? And another thing is that I really appreciate if some sort of SOPs should be made from MASC, which will help us in the reopening of the mall, like list of a few things regarding all the heads like security and leasing or marketing, that these are the things we need to do before reopening of the mall.
Shazad, I have a couple of answers. I'll jump in, Phil, first. First of all of the documents that Phil and Mohammed and I have talked about today, they're on our website. So the checklist that Phil had talked about that came from Sweden, the checklist that has been generated by the Singapore government, and the other different official protocols that have been established around the world are available through us, and you can go online as well, but you can get them through our mecsc.org, mecsc.org, our website. You'll find them attached to our website, and you're free to download them. That's part of what it is. So we can do that. Phil, maybe you have another answer for Shazad?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. We've got to remember that the MECSC is a nonprofit organization. Mohammed and I are volunteers. David has a small team. So our job is really to pull information together and have it on the website. And we invite everyone who's listening today and watching today, if you have any documents or any information, just continue to send it to MECSR. And then we will end up having, I think, a very good directory of the latest information. Back to social media and how to engage with your customers. I just think, you know, it's a time of uncertainty, and we all are phoning our friends and family around the world and engaging in dialogue just to see how everybody's doing. I think in your social media today, you should be telling your customers that you appreciate their loyalty, that you will be reopening, that you look forward to welcoming them. Once you understand exactly what you're going to be doing to make the property safer, I would be communicating that to the customer. And then obviously in an opening regime, you've got to be promoting the safe and cleanliness and social distancing and basically the guidelines. So I think there's lots of topics that you can go back to social media starting today, even though you may not know when exactly you're opening. But it's all about giving your property, your company, a caring personality. So you're not just a building. You're an operating company that cares about the customer.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shazad.
It's now, Angelo, I'm just looking at the time. It's 12 o'clock. I think that Phil and Mohammed and I are certainly prepared to answer one, perhaps two more questions, but it's already been the 1 hour that we suggested it would be. What I can suggest to everyone is this. We're happy to provide you our feedback and our opinions on how we think best to proceed in all of these questions and matters that we've discussed today. And I think tomorrow we can get right into it again. I think we'll be more involved in maybe a little bit more detail than what we've talked about today. But we welcome you all to come back tomorrow, again, Dubai time at 11 a.m. And we can maybe, Angelo, have one, maybe two more questions, and then I think we wind down, if that's okay.
Sure. The next question is from Sanjeev Kumar.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Sanjeev.
Yeah, my very simple question is like there is so much of uncertainty among the people and the customer. They don't know when this thing will get over. So as a CSO, like the chief executive officers or the top management or the top leaders of the or as a business owner for a mall, what should be our strategy towards our staff, our people, and towards the customers?
Sanjeev, welcome and thank you for your question. Again, the document I talked about at the beginning of the presentation, produced by a company called Safe Shopping Centers, how to prepare your shopping center for the beyond COVID or post-COVID period. There's a pretty good checklist in there for senior management and for frontline management. And that's the areas I talked about, the crisis management team, the communications team, and then the managing those communications through the various stakeholders, your retailers, your suppliers, your government relations, your police relations. It's basically forcing all of us to make a game plan. And like David said, we don't have a checklist, but other people have produced checklists, and that will get you started. And, you know, we're all experienced professionals that have run properties. So if we just sit down and think about all the areas that require attention and detail, and I would actually write it out. I would have minutes for your critical team every day on what you're talking about, what you're going to do. Areas that you don't have the answer to, you just say, we don't know today, we're going to try to find out tomorrow. Just how much more can we really do practically?
Wonderful. Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so we really do appreciate your questions. If you do have further questions for our speakers, please do send them to covidwebinar@mecsc.org. Thank you.
I have one quick point.
Yeah, please.
The third webinar on Sunday, we're going to devote primarily to getting through as many questions as we can. Because it's just an overwhelming number of questions that's coming through. But I think even tomorrow we can maybe shorten our formal presentation and deal with more questions. Back to you, David.
Okay, thanks, Phil, and thanks, Mohammed, and thanks for everybody who's joined it.
David, I do have one just...
yes, go ahead, Mohammed. Yeah.
I have one suggestion. I do remember we do have in MCC is the applications. And if we could do activate in that application like a chat rooms where everybody have a question. After we finish all our sessions later on, we could exchange all our information, data, research, we receive it to the community between us. I think the application with a chat room in the application will be very good and useful to sharing all the information. It's something like the WhatsApp on the technology side only.
Mohammed, thank you for that. That's a great idea. Okay, I'll bring this to a close then formally for today, but I wanted to thank everybody for coming, first of all, for joining us, all of the people. It's great to see so many friends that I've known throughout all the years I've been here, and they've all joined us, so thank you for that. I think also thank you to Mohammed, and thank you to Phil for joining us, and thanks also to the great MECSC team. They've done a fabulous job in hosting this, and they make it look so easy that it almost makes it look like they're not doing anything. But I know that behind the scenes, everybody is working quickly, and we're staying in touch with everyone. So I think, and just before I sign off, let me also remind you that if you were trying to hire Phil or trying to hire Mohammed or trying to engage me in all of these things, you would have no better chance than to do that right now. And you're getting it for the big fat price of what, Phil? Just our joy of being here and sharing that information.
Absolutely.
And Mohammed with you. So
thank you.
I appreciate everybody who's joined us. And Phil and Mohammed, unless you have another comment, we're prepared to leave the meeting and come back tomorrow.
Cheer up.
Stay
Just
safe,
smile.
everyone.